Hello, one more time from Joe Hadoba at Salem Media Group here, doing a Cup of Joe. It's the last segment in the series for breaking through some of these roadblocks that small businesses have. Wanted to talk today specifically about spreading your budget too thin. This topic and this situation, it's all too common. It's probably the most difficult thing to break through for a client. It's real. You know, the money that we have in our bank accounts, it's real. The money we make from selling our service is real. And so, you know, we can't go about things the way that the larger corporations do, where they go into $1 million in debt to be able to grow their business. It's one of the things that I really enjoyed coming out of banking, where putting people in debt for their businesses meant growing their business. I like being able to bring clients and bring customers to my clients to actually grow their business, to be able to put that money into their pockets and help them achieve the dreams that they had when they decided to become an entrepreneur. And so let's talk about what it means to have the proper budget and what it means to spread it too thin. Years ago, the Small Business Administration actually said that a small business should spend about 6% on marketing to be able to meet their revenue goals. That's changed. That's changed a lot, I believe, since the 90s and early 2000s, simply because there's so much more out there. I mean, look at this. I'm standing here doing these videos for YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and I'm going to be putting them out, you know, in successive weeks. I mean, this is just one thing. Then you look at all the other distractions that we have within our society, and it takes more to actually achieve the awareness, understanding, to be able to drive the leads that everybody wants. And so at this point in time, you know, recently, I think it was even just a couple of years ago, the SBA has now suggested that the customer generation budget, that's my word, they call it marketing budget, but marketing and business growth really consists of the marketing and branding that you do with your website and any brochures you do, the advertising that you do, whether it be radio, TV, you know, the digital side of things, whatever it is, and the business development that you have as far as your sales team goes. I haven't even touched on a sales team and helping with sales and close rate and things like that. So I call it the customer generation budget. It should be your revenue goal times 10% of that revenue goal. What you want to make, not what you made last year, not what you made 2 years ago, what you want to make this coming year and going forward. So that means if you want to grow at 20%, you're at $100,000 or $100,000 this year in sales, you need to take what you want to make, the $120,000, and multiply that by the 10%. From there, you'll be able to say, okay, I have this much money to spend on my advertising. Now, I know for myself, if you take a look at what my budget is, what I gain off of my commissions or whatever, if I look at my portfolio, look at my sales process as my own business, that's hard to do. It's okay, but we want to shoot for that 10% if we can. Margins play a big part of that. If you're at a keystone margin and you have 100% markup, that's great. Then you should definitely be doing at least the 10%, if not 12%, with taking into your location as a consideration. You know, so basically, when you figure out what your budget should be, you have to understand the balance between reach and frequency. A lot of times, we talked about it before, that we want to reach too many people, but do it with too little frequency in order to influence them. You know, it's great to be able to, for somebody to make a phone call and touch base with somebody, but then when I go away, if I only talk to somebody once, they'll never remember me whenever they actually come into my buying cycle. And it's the same for, you know, for home improvement people. It's the same for financial consultants. It's the same for a jewelry store. It doesn't matter. You know, it's about understanding the frequency combined with the reach. So I wanted to give an example And it is the easiest way for me to do it. It hasn't changed since I've been selling radio and selling marketing and advertising. In radio, we always reach for a 3 frequency. I guess it's a bad way to say it actually, but we always look for a 3 frequency. What does that mean? What a 3 frequency means is simply reaching somebody 3 times a week to allow them to remember you, and to do that on a consistent basis. I don't mean every 2 weeks, I mean every week. Make sure that whenever you do things, that you allow for the frequency to be large enough to accomplish that. So for example, Roy Williams wrote a couple of books called The Wizard of Ads. It's how I actually learned how to do this job and actually how to prepare schedules and strategies for a radio audience to be able to bring new business for clients. But he says in a seminar that he had done a few years ago, that if you take the day parts, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., basically the breadth of the most busy broadcast parts of the day, if you do about 21 to 25 spots a week consistently, you will achieve a 3 frequency with about 75% of that radio station's audience. I say that's slow because it's, I'm just saying it, I don't have it written down. But again, if you do about 25 spots a week, every single week for as long as you can, you'll gain a 3 frequency with about 75% of the audience. And if you can do that for a year or 2 years with good messaging, you're going to be that #1 business that people think of whenever they become in need of your service. It's super important. Again, it goes all the way back to that customer journey and the beginning part of how important awareness and consideration is. So, when we look at this budget, when we look at a 3 frequency, and we don't want to spread things too thin, what do? Now, it's tempting to reach further than your budget will allow. And I have a saying, and again, I got it from Roy Williams. It's better to speak to 10% of the audience and convince them 100% of the way to use your service or buy your product. It's better to do that than to go ahead and speak to absolutely everybody, but only convince them 10% of the way to actually use you. Yeah, let me say it again. It's better to talk to 10% of the people and convince them 100% of the way to actually use you than to talk to 100% of the people and convince them only 10% of the way. There's money at the end of one, there's failure at the end of the other. It's up to you. And you have to make sure you balance reach versus frequency. Gain enough reach, but you have to do it with enough frequency to be effective. This is Joe Hadoba from Salem Media Group. I hope this was beneficial to you. Hopefully I'll be able to have more videos coming up. If you'd like to hear more about something, please let me know. I have time to be able to answer any questions that people have, whether it's on the buying cycle, whether it's on particular tactics. Make sure you send me an email. It's on the video. It's in the descriptions. Feel free to ask. I'm happy to help. Joe Hadoba from Salem Media Group. Thanks for listening to Cup of Joe. Bye.